Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Basis Points, where we dive deep into the numbers and the stories that drive our economy and shape our world. Let's look at the latest figures at the Philippine Stock Exchange. Right now, as of 10:33 this morning, the PSE index is up by 0.1% to 74.33. Now tracking the gains in Wall Street overnight, which come ahead of the release of key inflation data in the U.S., which will give some guidance on the Federal Reserve's direction on interest rates moving forward. Now the all-shares index is up as well, up by 0.2% to 40.42 right now, leading the gains in the market. That's from the holding firms, while losses are coming from the services sector. Now, meanwhile, at the foreign exchange market, the peso opens weaker from its previous close of 57.02, opening at 57.15 against the greenback. Elsewhere in Asia, indices in mainland China and in Hong Kong are up in early trade as the People's Bank of China kicked off a swap program aimed at lifting the stock market. China's blue chip CSI 200 is up by 0.6% at market open, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index is up sharply at 2%. The Chinese central bank says it will start accepting applications for its 500 billion yuan or $71 billion swap facility from securities firms, funds, and insurers. This move aims to channel more cash into the stock market. Now, Maybank expects the Philippine Stock Exchange Index to reach 8,200 next year, driven by improving corporate earnings growth. In a research note, Maybank raises its earnings growth forecast for the index members to 13% from 10% this year. Although local stocks may face some profit-taking, Maybank believes that the fundamentals and the valuations remain strong enough to support further gains. The PSE index is currently up 15% year to date, and it's on track for its best year since 2017. In other news, House of Investments owned by the Yuchengco family is partnering with the Aboitiz Group to develop a 184-hectare mixed-use property in Tarlac. The collaboration will expand Aboitiz Infracapital's Tari estate by integrating a 184-hectare property owned by the Yuchencos. The two companies plan to develop the land for various mixed-use purposes, further enhancing the Tari estate. House of Investments will hold a 51% stake in the joint venture named Tarlac Terra Ventures, while Aboitiz Infracapital will own 49%. This partnership is significant as it represents a strategic expansion into Tarlac, boosting regional development and creating new opportunities for businesses and residential growth. Now, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas approves Bank of the Philippine Islands sale of its stake in digital lender GoTime Bank. BPI confirms that it received the approval yesterday. The sale of BPI's 15% stake in GoTime Bank to GoTime Financial and Giga Investment Holdings will raise over 900 million pesos. BPI acquired these shares after merging with Robinsons Bank. The bank says selling its stake will avoid any conflict since both GoTime and BPI offer similar products. Now, South African court temporarily blocks billionaire Enrique Razon's takeover of the biggest container port in sub-Saharan Africa. Bloomberg reports that AP Moller-Maersk, one of the world's largest shipping companies, is challenging the awarding of the project, arguing that International Container Terminal Services, or ICTSI, does not meet a required solvency measure. APM Terminals, a unit of Maersk, was one of the unsuccessful bidders in the auction by state-owned Transnet to sell nearly half of the main terminal in Durban and operate it for 25 years. The so-called Transnet stays in place until the court hears the second part of AP Terminals' challenge. In July of 2023, Transnet selected ICTSI as the preferred bidder for a joint venture to develop and upgrade the Durban container terminal. This is significant for the Philippines as ICTSI is a Filipino-owned global port operator and could strengthen the country's position in the international port industry if their foray is successful. A top energy executive warns that the Philippines' heavy reliance on coal for electricity generation is driving up power costs, challenging the idea that coal offers cheap energy. FirstGen Corporation's Vice President, Carlos Lorenzo Vega, tells the Inquirer that with 60% of the country's power coming from coal plants, fluctuations in global coal prices have caused consumers' electricity bills to rise. Vega stresses the urgent need to diversify into renewable energy sources to help stabilize prices. In the United States, newly released minutes from the central bank's September meeting reveal a split among policymakers over last month's unexpected half percentage point rate cut. While a substantial majority supported a significant cut, some Fed officials pushed for a smaller quarter percentage point reduction, seeking more assurance that inflation was firmly on a downward path. The minutes show that in the end, the Fed voted for the larger 50 basis point cut, citing progress on inflation and the balance of risks against the labor market as the reasons for that supersized cut. This marks the Fed's first rate cut in over 4 years. More trouble for Google as the U.S. government considers asking a judge to break up the tech giant. This follows an August court ruling that found Google used illegal practices to keep its dominance in online search. The Justice Department plans to propose fixes which could include changes to prevent Google from keeping its search monopoly. The government might also ask the court to stop Google from paying to have its search engine pre-installed or set as the default on new devices. Google, however, plans to appeal, calling these measures radical. If approved, these changes could completely change how people search online, and by reducing Google's revenues, they give competitors a better chance to grow. We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Welcome back to Basis Points. Despite global economic challenges, the Philippine government is confident that it will hit its growth target of 6 to 7% for 2024. Finance Secretary Ralph Recto tells the Philippine Star that he expects goods exports to strengthen and the peso to stabilize amid increasing tourism receipts, growing business process outsourcing revenues, and a steady stream of OFW remittances. He says that the Development Budget Coordination Committee will closely monitor inflation before reviewing economic targets in December. Now, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump vows to lower taxes on U.S. citizens living abroad in his latest attempt to woo voters ahead of the November 5 election. Trump says he will support ending the double taxation of overseas Americans without offering specific details on how exactly he plans to implement this policy. Americans living or traveling outside the United States are required to pay the same taxes as those residing in the United States, including income tax returns. Now, according to government data, about 4.4 million U.S. citizens live abroad as of 2022. 2.8 million of those are eligible to vote in their former state. OpenAI says it's seen several attempts to use its AI models to create fake content designed to influence elections. The maker of ChatGPT reports that cybercriminals are using its AI tools for malicious activities on websites and on social media. So far, OpenAI has stopped over 20 attempts to produce articles on topics like the U.S. elections. The company also banned accounts from Rwanda that were used to generate fake comments about the elections there. OpenAI says that none of these attempts to influence elections went viral. This story is significant with upcoming elections in both the United States and the Philippines. Now, protecting the integrity of elections from digital manipulation is always a top priority. Elsewhere in the world, Indian tycoon Ratan Tata, who brought the Tata Group to the global stage, passes away. He was 86 years old and had been receiving intensive care in a hospital in Mumbai. On X, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi pays tribute to Tata, calling him a visionary business leader, a compassionate soul, and an extraordinary human being. Ratan Tata led the Tata Group for over 2 decades, transforming the 155-year-old conglomerate into a global empire spanning Jaguar, Land Rover, Tata Steel, aviation, and even salt pans. We're taking a quick breather. Basis Points will be right back. Welcome back to Basis Points. Metro Pacific Tollways President and CEO Rogelio Singson is named Management Person of the Year for 2024. The Management Association of the Philippines is honoring Singson for his strong leadership, good governance, and his anti-corruption efforts during his time as Public Works Secretary from 2010 to 2016. He is also being recognized for being a model of humility, ethical conduct, and spiritual integrity. The prestigious award is presented to individuals who have made significant contributions to the country's development and have helped shape national values. Before we go, the historic Tropicana Hotel in Las Vegas bids goodbye in an explosive manner, literally. The iconic casino fell Wednesday as part of a grand implosion in Sin City. The Vegas sky was illuminated by a dazzling drone and fireworks show before the hotel came crashing down. This marks the first implosion of a strip casino since 2016. It was done to make way for a $1.5 billion stadium for the Major League Baseball's Las Vegas Athletics. The Tropicana opened in 1957 and was the third oldest casino on the Strip. It closed its doors for good back in April. And that's it for Basis Points. I'm Maiki Oreta. Keep it here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel, always on top.